Sometimes it's easy to get caught up with the latest and greatest when it comes to supercars. We get talking about how this will out-accelerate that, or how its competitor is just a few tenths faster around a circuit. How this one is a great investment at just a few £1,000,000, or how this one is an absolute bargain at just a few £100,000. For us, they all come in the unobtainable bracket anyway, so we just enjoy driving them. But sometimes it's quite exciting to think about supercars which we could actually afford. Cars like this, the Audi R8.
When it was new, this first generation R8 V8 would have cost about 80 grand, but in today's market, it cost you about half that much. And thankfully, prices seem to have stabilised at around 40 to 50 grand. And much like the Aston Martin Vantage of the same era, it was aimed at getting people out of their Porsche 911s. But unlike the Vantage, the R8 causes a bit of a debate in the office. Is it a supercar or a sports car? The others argue that because this has just got the smaller V8 engine rather than the later V10, that it's just a sports car, but with the looks and this sort of power, I beg to differ. Also, unlike the Porsche 911 and V8 Vantage, this is small and it's got its V8 mounted in the middle. To me, it feels like a supercar. They say that because it's easy to drive, but I'm sorry, have you driven a modern supercar these days? I mean, yes. So it's not got the V10 from a Lamborghini. It's got a V8 from an Audi saloon car. But it's also got 415 brake horsepower. We'll get to 0 to 60 in 4 seconds and onto a speed, as near as makes no difference, of 190. So it would seem that this is quite a good entry-level supercar, if I'm allowed to call it that. You've got all the power and excitement that you want from a supercar and the looks, but you really don't have any drawbacks. I mean, these things are even cheap to service. Because that V8 was such a mass-produced unit, it's pretty bomb-proof. This car just makes a lot of sense. Too much sense for it to be a supercar. So I get why they might say it's a sports car in that sense. It makes that much sense. I think we should buy one. Actually, to be brutally honest with you, we have. Welcome to the newest member of our SCD fleet, our R8 V8. See, a few weeks back we were debating getting another car to add to the fleet, and then we drove a member's R8 V8 manual and fell in love with it. And then we got chatting to JBR Capital, who funded our 997 GT3 a few years back. And if you're not very good at man maths, they are. All I needed to do then was convince the boss, which, let me tell you, is a lot easier than convincing your wife. The best thing is, JBR are lenders rather than a broker. And if you get chatting to them, you'll just find out that they're a bunch of petrol heads who want to fund your passion, as they put it. So they wanted us to have an R8. And because they understand the market, they know that prices on something like this are not really going anywhere. So it's quite low risk, and therefore you can get quite a decent deal. I'd highly recommend it. This gearbox is lovely. Makes such a lovely noise when you change. It's not the clink that you get in a Ferrari. It's more of a clunk, a heavy-duty clunk. It's very manly. You'd also expect, with it being a quattro system, it's going to feel pretty soulless in the corners and a bit understeer, but you'd be wrong. The four-wheel drive system in the R8 is very, very rear biased. Only 15% of the power is going up front, unless it feels the rear end slipping, in which case it just sends another 15%. So you've never got more than about a 30-70 split. You drive this like a rear wheel drive car, and most of the time that's how it handles. Admittedly, this one with its standard exhaust is a bit too quiet, but that can easily be remedied, because it's such a shame to keep this free revving V8 so quiet. As you blip it down into the bends and then get on the throttle again, it sings, but it's like it's just a little bit timid. It doesn't want to be heard. That's partly the whole thing about the R8. It's a lot more understated than a shouty Lamborghini, but you still get that driver enjoyment. You've got to have the manual as well. This gearbox is possibly one of the best manual gearboxes on a road car. I know that's quite a claim, but it really is. It gives you stacks of confidence. With the grip levels, the weather is pretty atrocious, but we've got a nice fresh set of Pirellis on it, and it's just clinging on and gripping. The overall feel, it's nice and small, you can fling it around, but very stable. Now, I get to lead tours in an R8.
If you had about 40 to 50 grand to spend on an entry-level supercar, what would you go for? And do you agree with me or my fellow colleagues? Is this actually a supercar? Let us know in the comments below.